All right. Hey, real quick. You know how sometimes I get my topics from listening to the radio on the way to work in the morning. So let's just throw in a little current events here. There is this topic a little bit about this Government Contracts Act that I talked about yesterday at the end, relatable today. Okay, so obviously the United States is funding about half the cost of the Ukraine war for Ukraine. Europe is funding about the other half, right? And so the weapons and so forth that we're sending and money that we're sending to Ukraine. One of our members of Congress is a guy named Dan Crenshaw. He represents a district in Texas. He's an Iraq War veteran. And I don't know if you've probably ever seen this guy, Dan Crenshaw. I like him. He wears an eye patch. I don't know if you've ever seen this guy on TV. Maybe not. Okay, but Dan Crenshaw is a veteran. He lost an eye in an IED explosion in Iraq, got out of the military and ran for Congress and was elected. Okay, he's in his second term. Well, he was interviewed this week about the funding for the Ukraine war. Because Saturday, when we avoided the government shutdown for 45 days, we decided we're going to spend this money for 45 days. There was no money in there for Ukraine. Okay, so there's a lot, President Biden's worried about that. There's a lot of people worried about that. Okay, and so what Crenshaw said was, listen, this is actually a really good deal for America. See, we get to send all of our old weapons to the Ukraine, and then our defense industries can build new weapons, so we're better prepared if we have to use them. Okay, now that's an interesting argument. Now, when we say these defense contractors, guys, Boeing, Raytheon, Donald Douglas, these are all large defense contractors. Okay, and they make a lot of money when we ship our weapons overseas because they have to make new weapons. You follow me? These big defense industries. Now, everybody's heard of Dwight Eisenhower. Ike. He's from Kansas. He was a World War II general that we'll talk about in here. But after the war was over in World War II, he ran for president in 1952 and was reelected in 1956. So he served for 8 years as our president. He was a general. You understand? When he left office in 1960, Dwight Eisenhower warned us. He warned the American people. He said, listen, you need to watch out for what's called the military-industrial complex. That those people that make all the weapons of war need wars to make money. They need conflicts so that they can build the weapons of war. You following me? Some of you guys might remember the first Iron Man, Tony Stark. Okay, that's what he was doing, right? An Iron Man, okay? And so you have to pay attention to this. Okay, now, we can debate the merits of supporting Ukraine or not. That's fine, okay? Everybody's allowed to have an opinion on that, okay? But you need to understand the behind-the-scenes kind of stuff here. So these government contractors, Boeing is a government contractor, Donald Douglas, Raytheon, other military contractors, okay? And they're very much enjoying this war in the Ukraine financially, okay? Now, as an individual, you guys can invest in those companies, and if those companies make more money and become more valuable, you benefit as well. And so can the Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, who in his previous life before he was Secretary of State, had Boeing as one of his biggest clients. Okay. All right, moving forward. All right, so we're going to wrap it up today. Now, one of the things we've been talking about is just how many laws were declared unconstitutional during the New Deal, okay? So I put together this graph. Well, I didn't put it together. I put up this graph of laws that have been declared unconstitutional in American history, dating back to 1789, okay? The light color are national laws, federal laws. The darker blue is state and local laws. So this is the time period we're looking at here. So these are New Deal laws. So historically, in the 20s and 30s, we did see an increase in laws being declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. What's interesting, if you look between 40 and 49, that's during the war, World War II. Now, remember when I talked about fascism and a crisis? We're locked in a world war. So the government's going to do things like, I don't know, round up a bunch of Japanese Americans on the west coast of the United States and put them in camps without charging them with a crime, which obviously violates these people's rights, but the Supreme Court didn't do anything about it because we were in a war. So you see very few laws unconstitutional then. Now look at all these here. State and local laws. This is the 60s. That's Jim Crow. Those are laws of segregation and the races that local and state governments had. Okay. And those are going to be found unconstitutional in large numbers. Okay. So I just thought that was kind of an interesting topic to talk about while we're talking about much of the New Deal being challenged by the court. Good? Yeah, that's pretty good, Mr. Ebright. Yeah, that's a good idea to put that up there right now. All right. Yeah, thanks. Okay, moving forward. All right, so it's time for Roosevelt to run for re-election. He's had 4 years. Are we out of the Depression yet? No. No. But, has Roosevelt tried really hard with all these programs to help people? Yeah, he's going to be popular. He's going to be really popular, guys, even though we're still in the Depression. Okay? Now look at some of the successes here. All right? By June of 1936, industrial production was up to 1923-25 levels. Now, that's not the peak of the roaring 20s, but things have improved. There's more production. Okay? Farm income is up. We know that because we're paying farmers not to plant crops, right? Which is bringing down the surplus, and prices are coming up for farmers. Weekly wages are going up. People that work for the CCC, the WPA, the PWA, okay? These people now have jobs. Unemployment drops from 12 million to from 12 to 7 million. So I pretty much guarantee you those 5 million people that didn't have a job that now have a job, most of them working for the government, are going to vote for who? They're going to vote for Roosevelt. Wouldn't you? Is the line long at the drive-thru or what? Now, the Depression is far from over, as we know historically, okay? But Roosevelt's very popular. Republicans have no chance. They got no chance to. This is like trying to defeat Santa Claus. So you need a sacrificial lamb. You got to run somebody against Roosevelt. So you know who they're going to choose? The governor of Kansas. His name's Alfred E. Landon. Any guys thinking about going to K-State? Okay. Pay attention. So, like, when you're in college there, once a year they have what's called the Landon Lecture Series, named after former governor of Kansas, Alf Landon. Okay. And they bring in, like, famous people to give talks to the students and faculty. Okay. The Landon Lecture Series. Okay. Named after this guy. He's a wholesome looking guy, you know what I mean? Like, he'd be like, he's just like, I don't know. You guys ever seen, huh? A Hobbit?
Yeah. His hairline is so bad.
You ever see, any of you guys heard of Leave It to Beaver?
Yeah.
Ward Cleaver, the dad? That's kind of what he reminds me of. Okay. So anyhow, his nickname is Alf. And Dwight Eisenhower's nickname is Ike. Okay, so we like nicknames here. All right, so obviously a lot of the Republicans were opposed to a lot of the New Deal, but how do you go about attacking it? I am against helping old people with Social Security. I don't think we should be giving people jobs. We shouldn't be using the government to do this. People need jobs. You know what I mean? Okay, let's talk about this. Joe Biden wants to cancel student loan debt for all those people that have tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars in school debt. Well, what about you guys that aren't going to college? So you're going to pay taxes to pay off somebody else's student loan debt? Or what about those people that have already paid off their student loan debt? Oh, but Mr. Ebrat, you got to have a heart. These people that studied gender studies and got a master's in it and have $100,000 in student loan debt and they can't find a job, we got to help these people. How is that my fault? That you can't find a job with the degree that you studied that was worth the paper it was written on. Willis is laughing in there, okay? Because it's funny, but it's not funny, okay? What is Biden doing? He's trying to buy votes by canceling student loan debt. Okay, now if you like Biden, you're like, yeah, man, he needs to do something because everything else is going to crap. Oh, by the way, sorry. Listen, whose idea was it to build a wall on the southern border? It wasn't Trump's idea. We had a lot of wall before Trump, right? But Trump said we need to finish the wall, right? Guess what? And Biden said, this wall stuff. You don't like brown people. Guess what Biden's doing? It came out yesterday. Okay, he's going to build some wall, 20 more miles, in a very porous portion of the border. Okay. Why? Because 4 million people have come into the country since he was elected. 4 million people. And guess where they're going? They're going to New York. They're going to Chicago. Did you guys hear about the Army-Navy game? It's a big deal in this country. It's over 100 years old, the Army-Navy football game, right? So all these people got hotel rooms in Massachusetts because it's in Foxborough, Massachusetts. That's where the game is. All these people got hotel rooms, and then this week they got notice that they don't have those hotel rooms anymore because they're housing migrants in those hotels. And who's paying for it? Again, guys, I'm not trying to be xenophobic here. I'm just saying this is a problem. This is a problem. It's expensive. Who's paying for it? These folks can't work. They're not allowed to work, so they can't pay their own way. So we have to pay for it. So all those hotel rooms are being paid for with our tax dollars. And we're $33 trillion in debt. Okay. This is why the speaker got fired this weekend. Speaker of the House. Have you guys heard about that? You didn't hear about it. I can't help you. I got to talk about this. Okay. Because he said, well, we're just going to keep spending money. And people in the Republican Party said, some people in the Republican Party said, no, you promised we weren't going to keep doing this. And you broke that promise, and now you're gone. No longer the Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy. That's what happened. Okay. All right. So it's hard to attack this stuff. Now, what's interesting, guys, there's other candidates running besides Republicans and Democrats here. The socialists have a candidate named Norman Thomas. Now, if you studied this time period more in depth, this guy ran for president like 4 times, Norman Thomas. He's a socialist, okay? But you also have a Communist Party candidate and a Union Party candidate. Guys, capitalism was failing us. We're in a depression, right? I told you about this, a democratic malaise. The system wasn't working. So what is Roosevelt using to keep the system from absolutely collapsing? He's using socialism to stop it from collapsing. He tried some fascism, that got shut down. Okay? And some of the socialism will get shut down. Roosevelt's going to win 46 states. Now, there's only 48 states in 1936. Hawaii and Alaska, what year? 1959. Okay, Hawaii and Alaska. Okay, so up until 59, there's 48 states. Okay, now he's going to win every state but 2. Poor Alf Landon won't even win his home state of Kansas. He wins, Landon wins Vermont and Maine. Now, what do you call this political science term? What do you call this type of election? Yeah, say it, a landslide. Okay, it's a landslide. Now, this is not the largest landslide in American history. It is the largest landslide since the first election, which George Washington won unanimously. He won every electoral college vote. Okay. What might be surprising to some of you, this is not the largest landslide we've had since. We've had 2 presidents since this that have had bigger landslides. We had 2 presidents win 49 states, only losing 1. 2 presidents in the modern era, which is hard to believe as divided we are. As we look at that electoral college map, you see the red is Republican, the blue is Democrat. Okay, it's hard to imagine a president winning 49 states. Who do you think those 2 presidents were?
Reagan.
Obama, no. Ronald Reagan in 1984 won 49 states. Okay, there's 1. It's not Obama. Oh, that's Obama's election there, 2012. I think it's 2012. I got it covered up. But.
Parker says Bush. Bush.
Nope. Neither Bush.
Nixon.
Dick Nixon. Richard Nixon. Tricky Dick. Okay.
What?
That was a nickname.
Tricky Dick.
Yeah. You know, a lot of Richards go by Dick, right? We don't hear that name a lot anymore. Richard. You guys know anybody named Richard? You know some Richards? Okay. Yeah, it's not used there as much as it used to be. But yeah, Dick is short for Richard. Okay. And huh? Goofy Richard. Okay.
How do you do Dick for Richard? Dick cannot be short. Yeah, but so we don't even have the same.
Richard. How do you get Bill out of William?
What? Bill out of William.
Yeah, Bill is short for William.
Yeah.
And John F. Kennedy was called what? They called him Jack.
That one makes a little bit more sense. I still don't get the.
I got a kid in my house whose name's John that we call Jack. It's the English language, man. Who can explain it? Okay. All right. All right. So I want to introduce to you another political science term. Actually, I'm going to make you listen to me on that. Okay. So when you win in a landslide like this, sometimes you have what are called coattails as a president. So this spring, a lot of you guys will go to prom, and a lot of guys will get tuxedos, rent tuxedos, right? So I did prom 3 times, and one of the times the tux I rented had tails, coattails. Okay, kind of classy. It's a classy look, and so this term, political science term, coattails, means that because he won so many votes and won so many states, that people of his party that were running for Congress in the same election got elected as well. So Roosevelt's a Democrat. He's very popular, so a lot of Democrats are going to ride into office on his coattails. Does that make sense? So in political science terms, if you ever heard that term used, president had coattails, that means his party did very well in congressional elections at the same time. Okay, and that's what's going to happen here. Democrats are going to win control of both houses of Congress for the first time since the Civil War. Okay, and that is the symbol of the Democratic Party, the donkey, or the jackass, if you will. And what's the symbol of the Republican Party? The elephant. Now, so, new majority party. Now, let's remember, Abraham Lincoln was a what? Republican or Democrat? He was a Republican. This was the abolitionist party, the Republican Party, the abolished slavery. Okay? So after the Civil War, which party controlled the South? Democrats. Democrats control the South because they were the Confederacy. The North was the Republican. You follow me? So after the Civil War, they didn't like, they stayed with the Democratic Party. Now, which party is the party of the KKK? The Democratic Party. In the South. That's where most of the KKK was, right? So the South was dominated by Democrats. That was a given. But with Roosevelt, you're going to see large groups of people that vote in blocks for the Democratic Party. And many of these are still the same today. So urban areas, so big cities, guys, vote heavily Democratic. Philadelphia, Chicago, New York City, Los Angeles. These cities, even Wichita, if you go into the city of Wichita, it's more Democratic than the suburbs. Okay, of course you find Republicans and Democrats in both, right? But in large blocks. Farmers, look at all the aid that Roosevelt is giving to the farmers, okay? Laborers, workers, blue-collar workers, teachers, social workers, immigrants. Now, this is an interesting one. African Americans are going to start voting for the Democratic Party. I just asked you the question. Who's the party of the KKK? So let me get this right. People are going to start voting for the party that thinks they're inferior to other races, that should be segregated from other races. Yeah, that's what's going to happen. Why? Why do blacks start voting for the Democratic Party? And they haven't stopped, by the way. They haven't stopped. Why? Come on, somebody. What has the New Deal done? It's given people jobs. Yes? Remember the dole? Welfare was created during the New Deal. People that are unemployed can get money from the government. You follow me on this? And when you talk about unemployment in this country, guys, the highest rate of unemployment in this country are African American youth. African American youth have the highest unemployment of any group in this country today and back then. So they switch. Yeah, the Democrats, they say nasty things. They use the N-word, that kind of stuff. But hey, you know what? We're getting help from them. They're voting with their pocketbooks, which is what a lot of people do. So I want you to think about it. When Obama ran in 2008, he got like 94% of the African American vote. And people are like, oh, well, black people just voted for Obama because he was black. No, that's BS. Okay, because white Democrats were getting 88 to 90% of African American vote. So Al Gore in 2000 got 88% of the African American. You follow me on this? So you can't just say, oh, they voted for Obama because he's black. Did that increase black turnout? Like, did more black people vote that in 2008? Yeah, for sure. Okay. Did more young people vote for Obama? Yes, for sure. Okay. Now, Donald Trump won 20% of the African American male vote. The Trumpster's a little bit popular in the hood, especially with black men. Okay? And if he gets the nomination in 2024, that number's going up. I guarantee you. Now, black women stayed away from Trump. But black men are moving in pretty significant numbers to Trump. Now, does that mean that black men will vote for Ron DeSantis or Nikki Haley or somebody like that, one of the other Republicans? I don't know. Okay? But Trump kind of has this effect on people. Okay? Trump does better with Hispanics than most Republicans do with Hispanics. Okay? Trump does better with laborers, blue-collar workers, than most Republicans do. That's how he won in 2016. He got former Democrats to vote for him. That's how you win states like Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania. Okay? These blue-collar workers, these factory workers that no longer have jobs because we've shipped them all overseas. And Trump says, I want to bring those jobs back. And they're like, yeah, I'm going to vote for that guy. You guys follow me on this? People vote with their own interest at heart. Okay? Now, with immigrants today, I just mentioned Hispanics, which is our largest immigration group. Pretty evenly split with Trump. Okay? Before Trump, depends where you're from as an immigrant, right? Mexico, if you're from Mexico, you might vote differently than if you're from Venezuela or Cuba. Like, people from Cuba vote heavily Republican. This is how DeSantis won huge in Florida, okay, because the Cuban vote came out for him. Puerto Rican vote came out for him, okay? Mexican-American immigrants tend to be a little bit more Democratic than Republican, okay? But like Vietnamese or, different Asian groups, not clearly defined one way or the other. Okay, but generally a little bit more towards the Democrats. Okay, but not in massive numbers like African Americans. Okay? African Americans hardcore today, Democratic Party. Okay? Just giving you some light. All right. Damn, I'm running out of time. Okay, so Roosevelt was very popular. The radio addresses, the fireside chats really helped him. The media liked him. Okay, like he was always around the media. I got one more slide after this. So like Hoover gave 66 press conferences in 4 years. Roosevelt gave 337 in 4 years. So Hoover's giving one like once a month. And Roosevelt's giving one like once a week. So he was constantly around the media. They were his friends. And when the media likes you, they don't ask you hard questions. Does the media like Joe Biden? Okay. Now, when he flipped the script, and yesterday it was announced that they're going to build more on the wall on the southern border, people like, he's going to get asked that question. Like, Mr. President, you said this was the wrong thing to do. Okay. Now you're doing it. Why? Somebody might ask him that question. Or maybe they'll just ignore it. You guys know what a softball question is? Like if I ask you a question on a test. Who was president? Who was the president elected 4 times? That's a softball question. Here. Hit it out of the park. That's a home run. Right? Underhand softball, not fast pitch. Fast pitch is hard to hit. Slow pitch softball. Question. You with me on that softball questions? All right. All right. One more slide. This was one of the questions on your last homework assignment, the Roosevelt recession. Okay. So things had improved in 36. The Democrats kicked butt. Kicked butt. But by 1937, things got worse. Things went from bad to worse again. And so Republicans are going to come back in 1938. Okay? Roosevelt talks about packing the court. That makes him unpopular. He's like, this guy's trying to be a dictator. So the Republicans come back and win 75 seats in the House and 7 in the Senate. Okay? Now, one thing I do want to mention here, this is kind of hard for, you haven't had government yet, so maybe you don't understand this. Okay, in the Republican Party and in the Democratic Party, you have people that are in the middle. They're moderates. And then on the right, you have those that are conservatives and the ones on the left that are liberals. So there are conservative Democrats, there are conservative Republicans, there are liberal Republicans, and there are liberal Democrats. I don't know if you can understand that yet. But Roosevelt wanted to purge the Democratic Party of conservative Democrats, Democrats that were more like Republicans. He wanted to get rid of them. So they ran more very liberal socialist candidates for office. And when you run people that are more radical, they tend to lose. The American people don't do radical well. They don't like radical. So when either party nominates a radical candidate, they don't do well, generally. Okay? And so that also happened here. Okay? And we get into political science, guys. We call these Democrats, there's a term for these conservative Democrats, they're called blue dog Democrats. So let's say you live in Alabama. Okay? You're a Democrat because your family was a Democrat. You've always been a Democrat. Everybody in your family is a Democrat. Most Catholics, guys, during this time period, switched to the Democratic Party. So if you have great-grandparents around, they were probably Democrats. Okay? Blue dog Democrats are these Democrats that believe in the Bible and they believe in, right and wrong, and they're not really into the whole LGBT thing. Okay? There are a few of these left that are conservative Democrats, but are liberal when it comes to, like, yes, we need more welfare, we need to help people, we need to do things to help people. That would be a blue dog Democrat. There's very few of them left today. Okay? But you can find a few in the South. Senator Joe Manchin from West Virginia, kind of a blue dog Democrat. Okay? Yeah, they're hard to find. Yeah. Hey, so this is what we're going to do. Monday, video Monday. Movie Monday? Not a movie, but it's a video Monday. Okay? Tuesday, we'll review. Okay? This will let everybody get back from the weekend and settle in. The video recap a lot of the stuff we've talked about, kind of refresh your brains. Then we'll review on Tuesday. We'll take the test on Wednesday. Extended schedule. Okay. Sound like a plan? Okay. You guys got a couple assignments you can work on over the weekend if you want, if you have time. I know you're probably got a lot going on, but I gave you plenty of time to work on stuff. Okay. Rock and roll. Y'all be safe.